Hello crocheters, in this crochet tutorial I'm gonna be showing with you how to crochet this makeup pouch. These are the materials we're going to be using to crochet the makeup pouch. If you have sewing pins, we're also going to be using that. To start making the makeup pouch, we're gonna be making. So I just realized that I have my 4mm hook, but I actually created this pattern with my 4.5mm hook. So you can use whichever hook size you prefer, but I'm going to be getting my 4.5mm hook. We're going to be starting off by making a slip knot. And then once you have your slip knot, chain 25. You can mark your first stitch and keep going until you have 25 stitches. Once you have your chain of 25, we're going to be skipping that first chain and into the second, work a single crochet and keep working one single crochet into each chain all the way down for a total of 24 stitches. Now that you have your chain of 24, chain 2 and then turn your work. Into that first stitch, we're going to be working 3 incomplete double crochet. Once you have those 3 incomplete double crochet on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 4 loops. Into the following stitch, make a single crochet. Now we're going to be making another bobble stitch, so place 3 incomplete double crochet into the next stitch. Once you have those 3 incomplete double crochet, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. Then into the following stitch, work a single crochet. So let's do this again. Into the next stitch, work a bobble stitch, so that's 3 incomplete double crochet. Once you have those 3 incomplete double crochet, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Then into the following stitch, work a single crochet. So this is what we're repeating: a bobble stitch, which is 3 incomplete double crochet made to form 1 stitch. And once you have made the bobble stitch, then after that work a single crochet into the following stitch. Continue doing this pattern all the way down. At the end of each row, you should have 12 bubble stitch. To move on to our next row, chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to be working into the single crochet as well as the stitches that were formed from working the bubble stitch. So into that first stitch, work a single crochet. Now into the stitch that was formed from making the bubble stitch. So this right here, work a single crochet into that. And that's all we're doing for this row. Into the single crochet, work a single crochet, and into the stitch formed on top of the bubble stitch, work a single crochet there. Keep working into the single crochet as well as the stitch on top of the bubble stitch, and I'll meet you near the end. So the second row is really just a single crochet row. Now for our third row, chain 2 and turn your work. Into that first stitch, we're going to be working a bubble stitch. And remember, that's 3 incomplete double crochet made to form 1 stitch. After each bubble stitch, remember to work your single crochet. Now keep interchanging between a bubble stitch and a single crochet for this row, and I'll meet you near the end. After making your third row, chain 1 and turn your work. And now for the fourth row, all we're going to be doing is making a single crochet into each of these stitches. Once you're through with that single crochet row, chain 2 and turn your work. And our next row is a bubble stitch row. So into that first stitch, we're starting off by making a bubble stitch. So for the bubble stitch row, we always begin by making a bubble stitch and then into the second stitch a single crochet and keep interchanging between the two of these. For this crochet makeup pouch, we're making a total of 6 bubble stitch row and you should end on a single crochet row. After you completed your 6 rows of bubble stitch with a single crochet row in between, chain 1 and cut your yarn. Weave in all the yarn tails that you have on this piece. Following the same pattern, make a second piece. For our third piece, make a slip knot and then chain 5. Like our previous pieces, we're going to be skipping this chain and going into the second one. But this time we're working into the back bump, and these are the back bumps. So skipping the first chain and into the back bump of the second chain and onward, make a single crochet, and you should have a total of 4 single crochet at the end of this row. Once you have those 4 stitches, chain 2, and like we've been doing, we're going to be working a bubble stitch into that first stitch. After working that bubble stitch into the second stitch, work a single crochet. And then into the next stitch, work a bubble stitch, and into the last stitch, a single crochet. For our next row, chain 1 and then turn your work, and into each of those stitches work 1 single crochet. You should have 2 bubble stitch for this piece. For the next row, chain 2 and turn your work, and into that first stitch work a bubble stitch, and then into the next stitch work a single crochet, and just repeat this for this row. After your third row is completed, chain 1 and turn your work. And into each of those 4 stitches, work 1 single crochet. For the third piece, we're not going to be cutting the yarn once we have our desired length, so keep the yarn attached. Continue repeating this pattern for a total of 24 bubble stitch row. Working in the back bum should have created these stitches, which you can mark. Now we're going to be aligning the pieces, so on the first and the third piece, mark the first bubble stitch on both of them. Using the third piece, count out the 6th stitch and then mark that to the 6th stitch on the first piece. On the third piece, mark the bubble stitch directly following the one you just marked and connect it to the 6th bubble stitch on the first piece. Counting from the stitch we just marked on the third piece, mark the 12th stitch. After marking the 12th bubble stitch on the third piece, attach it to the 12th bubble stitch on the first piece. We're gonna be marking the 12th stitch on the first piece to the stitch following the one we just marked on the third piece. Now connect those end bubble stitches together. So this is the alignment. So on this side we have 6 bubble stitches, and then on the bottom part of the makeup pouch we have 12 bubble stitches. Then back to the side we have 6 bubble stitches. Now we're going to be sewing the pieces together. So thread a long piece of yarn on your needle. And when we're sewing this, we're going to leave a little yarn tail here at the top. And as best as possible, just sew the pieces together. After sewing those two pieces together, cut your yarn, leaving a little yarn tail. And then go ahead and sew on the other piece. After sewing all the pieces together, the little yarn tails that we left at the top, go ahead and weave those in. Flip the makeup pouch out on the right side, and you should still have your working yarn attached to that third piece. So go ahead and just join your hook there. Once you have your hook attached into that first single crochet, make a slip stitch, then chain 1. Into the first stitch that we slip stitched in, work a single crochet there. And just keep single crocheting into each stitch all the way down. After single crocheting across that first panel, into those next 4 stitches, work a single crochet. Continue single crocheting all around, so into each of those 24 single crochet stitch on this piece, and then the 4 stitches on the next piece, and I'll meet you near the end. Once you have single crocheted around for the next 2 rounds, all we're going to be doing is slip stitch into that first stitch and then chain 1. And into those 56 stitches, work 1 single crochet, and remember we're working 2 rounds. To end this third single crochet round, slip stitch into that first stitch and then chain 1. Cut your yarn and go ahead and weave in your yarn tail. For the final part of the makeup pouch, we're going to be attaching the zip, so flip it inside out. Open the zip, and we're going to be using the sewing pins to secure it into position in order to sew it down. Once you have your zip in position, go ahead and thread your needle. Before I start sewing the zip down, I'm making a little knots here at the end to secure the thread. Now, however you know best, go ahead and sew the zipper onto the pouch. I'm gonna be making 2 rows. Once I'm at the end, I'm going to be sewing back up. Then I'm going to be weaving the thread into the body of the makeup pouch. So I've double stitched the zipper down. Now I'm going to be making a knot. Then I'm going to be sewing the thread into the body of the bag. Repeat the sewing pattern on the next side of the zipper. So this is how it looks inside out with both sides secured. And I'm going to be bringing the right side out now. So here we have the final result for the crochet makeup pouch. I hope this crochet tutorial was helpful and thank you for watching. Feel free to check out my channel for more crochet tutorials. This crochet makeup pouch can also be used as a crochet pencil case.